I'm not saying it for that reason. I just wanted you to know because I kept looking at it and I said, "Time is standing still." That's wrong too. Time is standing still.
I teach class, but I sometimes I work 7 days. Exactly. Other times, like last week. When it's crazy busy, it's hard and stressful, but I try to.
No, it's not. The two of us take class together.
And then I still act also, so
all right, I just want to hear more. You know I do. Okay.
What do you like better? You know, hallelujah.
Oh, definitely performing myself. Yeah.
That's very fun.
Anyway, that's fine.
But I do enjoy it.
Musical endeavor.
Well, it's
It's not
$6
or oh, you're
do you have any other teams? Yeah, so that's probably yes, it is. So we're good.
I know,
Yeah, corner all set.
I'll leave this to you.
Sure, you can.
First thing I thought of.
Yes, she is very good.
Great to see you.
It's just starting with Fred.
I try to come the first.
Okay, no.
You're right.
I'm gonna take a little shot.
Let's do that.
One of these things will have to.
Good job, Miss Howard. Good to see you, Howard.
Have you ever considered?
Thank you very much. I would part of it. And going home the day after the first but I can attend the first Tuesday on August 23rd.
That'd be great. We'll make it happen. Yeah, very exciting. I'm so glad you're with us. Because I don't think we want to
down there.
yeah, we're all gonna make it happen. Because we know the music so much better now. Feel pretty good. Well, you fell asleep listening to this.
One or two others. 26.
Break off the
Military guy.
Please do.
He's got a 35 songs. And it's,
The first
I have
one.
a chart, so.
Oh,
So now I'm looking him up.
There is-
I'm
there is a
wondering-
certificate.
Yeah.
Shalom.
No big deal.
yeah.
I wish I could sit at the counter there.
But I still have to do, so if I can, I'll just better say.
Yeah.
That's-
Rather than just.
Yeah, they did a good job, but Shabbat Shalom. No, she could message
Is that my mail?
good afternoon today, that I didn't have to go to my bowling alley job. I did receive your email, thank you very much. The hotel was still stuck with me. And, I appreciate your suggestions for other jobs.
The rabbi.
Right.
Good Shabbos, everybody.
Good Shabbos, Shabbat.
The greatest wish that we have for anyone for Shabbat is Shalom, Shabbat of peace, for completeness and fulfillment. So we begin our service with Havenu Shalom Aleichem, bringing each other that measure of completeness known as Shalom. Please join us for Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Havenu Shalom Aleichem, Havenu Shalom Aleichem, Havenu Shalom Aleichem. Shalom, shalom, shalom aleichem. Shalom aleichem. Shalom aleichem. Shalom aleichem. Shalom, shalom, shalom aleichem. Please turn to the people to your left and wish them Shabbat Shalom. And turn to the people on the right and wish them Shabbat Shalom. We continue our song.
Shalom
Aleichem, we need you. Shalom Aleichem, we need you. Shalom Aleichem, we love you. We bring you Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. It is good to be home and good to be here. One little side note. We're used to wishing each other Shabbat Shalom, but my grandchildren and my sons live in an Orthodox Ashkenaz community. And I wished somebody, I can't think who it was, Shabbat Shalom. They looked at me and they said, nope, no. I said, no, it's good Shabbos. Oh, boy, yes. And once upon a- yeah, that's what they wish. They wish us a good Shabbos. And it's reminded me of saying, I teased my granddaughter about it. I wanted to see if she knew her Aleph Bet. So there's a wonderful, wonderful song, if you want to go on YouTube, called the Aleph Bet song. So I start singing it, Aleph Bet Bet, Aleph Bet. She starts, no, it's wrong. So I thought maybe I left out a letter. You know, you get so used to it. I said, no, huh? It's not Aleph Bet. It's Aleph Beis Beis. Oh, God. So anyway, that's it. So I'll be talking about them throughout the service. But it was wonderful, but it was a step back in time from time to time. But please join us on page 121 as Robin leads us in the candle.
As these Shabbat or Shabbos candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Influence of Hardy Hebrew, the candle blessing is on page 120.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yishanu mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehariten shel shalom. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who follows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Being this is the first Friday of the month, the service is a little bit different, and we begin in a little bit different way on page 130. Come together Let us sing praises to God. Lefunarana. Yes, so put it around in our Hebrew for warm up, because now comes, no, I'm kidding. It means to come before singing. But now is the song, a second song of love. Amenu Shalom Aleichem is our love for each other. The second one is our love for Shabbat. Shabbat has kept the Jewish people together. As parents of Judaism, so to speak, we take great pride in it's a gift we gave to the world, the day of rest. In the ancient world, no one rested. 7 days, unless you were the gentry and then the slaves did all the work. But 7 days a week, people worked. Judaism said, we need a day of rest. You need a day for community, a day to be together. You know, one of the things I did when I was there is Josh got a new apartment at the outer boundaries of the Jewish community in Cleveland. And everybody gave him the business. It's too far, it's not the right neighborhood, you know, but. So we decided to walk. I insisted on staying with him for Shabbat, and we walked. After we left the community and walked toward his apartment, it took us 35 minutes because we got lost. We had to ask the police what street. But the next morning, in daylight, it took us all of 20 minutes because we knew the side streets. So once again, but to walk and just talk with somebody you care about on Shabbat, the epitome of what Shabbat is all about. It was very restful and very wonderful. And as I said, I'll talk more about it. The Chadodi expresses our love for what Shabbat means to us. So please join us on page 138 of the Chadodi. Teach me how to down the Simla Ursala, so careful and hard to Why should we limit our love to human and human to time period? So on page 142, everyone, we expand our songs of love to include the angels that join us here on earth. The celestial messengers of God who give us guidance when we are lost, who give us divine vision when we need to find something we need to find, especially our car keys when we're late for shul. Anyway, Shalom Aleichem, everyone, on page 142, please.
I'm sorry, that's the wrong key. Shalom Aleichem,
Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Malachei HaMalachim, Baruch Baruch. Seichen Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Oh, Malachei HaMalachim, Baruch Baruch. Please turn to page 146 and rise for the formal call to prayer of the Baruch Hu. Come, let us praise the one who's doing praise. Let us praise the one who's doing praise in this world and the worlds we are yet to discover. The Baruch Hu. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Please turn to page 152 and 153. Due to COVID, I can't march with the Torah. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you, the Sephardim, if you're wearing tzitzit, if you're wearing a talis, to lift up your talis in blessing for the Torah. If you're not, to lift up your prayer books as we recite the Shema together. Everyone? Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem, Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Praise be His name, whose glorious kingdom is forever and ever. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael. Oh, Davinu, 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 Am Yisrael, ay, 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 Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael. Please turn to page 154. In the middle of the page, let us read together. Everyone, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Press them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments, and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Now, right away, God lets us be free. and the Egyptians decide they'd rather have a labor force, and so they chase us. And of course, because of God's guidance, Moses' leadership, we win. We cross the Red Sea, and they get bogged down. So here's the rub. I am sure that those people wanted to cheer. They were, your horses are stuck, okay. And they were about to. And God, as a tradition teacher, said, no, that's not Jewish. The Jewish way is to be magnanimous in victory. All you can say is, thank you, God, for making us free, for making us the way you made us. And our enemies, they have to deal with what they have to deal with. So, when we do Milchamocha, and I know it's hard. It's really hard. People want to get up and cheer. This person has hurt you for 250 years of slavery, at least. You want to get up there and not the na. They want to say something a lot nastier than that. You're ugly and your mother dresses you funny in those little skirts. But anyway, moving along. The point is you can't. So please, when they come to the occasion that you could do, as we used to say, do someone dirty after they've hurt you, smile. Don't make them nuts. But anyway, once again, Milchamocha, the song of freedom, the song of restraint. Please join us at the top of page 158. Sounds to wake up the people who fell asleep. Please turn to page 162. The Shamru, the children of Israel will guard the day of rest. And 95% of people would say, oh, it means only Shabbat, the 26 hours. But the word Shabbat itself means rest. So what the prayer says, the children of Israel will guard rest. Nobody in this room, I guarantee, gets enough rest. Nobody gets enough time to do restful things. And I don't mean staying in bed and watching The Price is Right. That's not what I have in mind. But nobody seems to find enough places that relax them. One thing I have to tell you, and Robin will bear me out, so will David, because they, like me, are expatriated Easterns. There's more water and more green in Cleveland. I'm jealous. I loved it. Or you make a wrong turn and you're in somebody's lake that goes behind their house. And that to me is rest. That to me gives you that kind of. Here, we have Southern California brown. There was summer brown, they have summer green. Of course, they have winter white, then we have winter green, but still, it was so nice. It was so much fun to walk. And if I may say so, I want a show of hands. How many of you have ever had a deer eat the grass on your front lawn? Not once, not twice, not two, maybe 5 or 6 times. People were telling stories on Shabbat because you have to walk, because it's an Orthodox man. How many times they walked past the deer looked at them and said, nice seeing you, sir, and went back eating. They're not afraid. They don't get nervous because they know that people love them. People stay far enough away because, and this is truthfully, they can't carry ticks. To be honest, but it's remarkable. I once saw a group of deer when we were there in Cleveland get on Interstate 70. Yeah, it sounds so weird to say it, but it looked like the families, oh, I think they were going away for a trip. If you why not take the freeway? It's the easiest way to go. But once again, keep it in mind. Find places that give you rest. Believe me. The Shabbat, everybody, on page 162. You all please rise. I heard someone talking about COVID a few minutes ago. It has not left us. There are still incidents of it. There are still people getting sick. Now we're worried about monkey virus. I don't know. I flat out don't know anymore. But I do know something. People are still getting sick. Not from that, but from after effects of COVID, from other things that are going on, from stress due to COVID. And flu season is almost upon us. They say because of the insanity over vaccinations, flu vaccinations are down. People get sicker and sicker. So if you know of anybody who at this time could use a prayer of healing, and as I raise my hand above you, I ask you to say the name aloud. When you do that, you give that much more power to our prayer. When you say the name aloud, you allow us to share in the greatest of moments of nefesh to save a life. And also, when you pray for someone to be well, you help heal yourself as well as they do. Please. Belts. Please repeat after me. El na Rafanallah. El na Rafanallah. El na Rafanallah. In other words, please God heal her. Speaks the Shekhinah, the center of healing that is part of God's presence. It may be healing of body, of mind, of soul, a refuah shlema, a complete healing. Let us all say Amen. As we continue the healing part of the service, please turn to page 371 in the Siddur. The Mishabera prayer is the ancient formula of healing. It speaks to our ancestors, the God healing our ancestors. And now we want to heal the people we love and we care about. We begin a third of the way down the page. The composition is done by the late wonderful Debbie Friedman, Cantor Debbie Friedman, who left us much too early. Please join us for Misha B'Av. Who blessed thou before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Second verse. I'll say, let us say, Amen. A few minutes ago, when we chanted the V'ahavta in Hebrew, you will love the Lord your God, and by extension each other prayer, there are three parts: physical love, spiritual love, and then what's usually called is strength. But to ease the poetry, they left out two of the words, in my opinion: strength of personality. Each of us is our own unique personality. So right now, let's make use of that strength of personality. Silent prayer directed from your heart to God's heart of your own making. Let us pray silently. Please turn to page 180. It seems every day the news is worse. The world is getting closer and closer, God forbid, to war. So we need to be the vanguard, the leaders in this striving for peace. So we begin on page 180 with a prayer 2/3 of the way down the page. Because if we're going to be these leaders, we need to be with pure heart and a clear mind. And as you all know today, there are very few leaders of pure heart and clear mind. But that's another story, not for tonight, not for Shabbat certainly. So let us pray first in Hebrew and then in English. Yilaratzon, Imrifit Yon Libi, Lefanecha Adnak Sirvagoli. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Let us say, Amen. We close this section of the service with a prayer that most of us know. For it is the last paragraph of the Mourner's Kaddish, but here there's an extra phrase. And that while that gives hope to the mourners of a better day, of a more logical and understanding day, we are trying to do this to teach the leaders of all the nations of the world the logic behind world peace. Please join me. Oseh shalom b'romav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimru amen. May the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, and for all who inhabit the earth. Let us all say amen. You may be seated. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's going to be in my column, which should come out any day now. But tonight it is 36 years to the day that I began as an employee for Temple Beth Emet of Burbank. It is also, as it turns out, the Jewish calendar and the secular calendar coming together. It is also, and I have to think, 63 to 22. 59? Is that about right? 59? Well, 59 and 13 would be 72. Yeah, that's right. It is 59 years ago. This is my bar mitzvah portion. It's Korach, the Great Rebellion. Now, I was a good kid, so I don't know why I got that portion. Well, I do know why I got that portion. That was that Shabbat. So let me talk about the portion, and then let me talk about the trip, and then let me talk about a few things about what it is meant to be here for these 36 years. Korach approaches Moshe with 250 armed men from different tribes. And he yells at him. He said, who made you the leader? Who put you in charge? And then Moses fell on his face. He got so embarrassed, he fell on his face. Got back up. And he says, we'll talk tomorrow. We'll talk tomorrow. And he went into his tent and he prayed to God. And ultimately, what Korach said was legitimate. He said, I should be the leader. Or at least if we're all priest people, if we're all the same, then there should be some kind of election or some kind of thing. And of course, with 250 armed men, we know how the election will work out. So what happened was, Korach's father was Moses' father's older brother. And in ancient Near Eastern culture, oldest got first. And don't think it's just way out back there. In Europe, being this is American History Weekend, many of the people who came to the United States to start anew were the third child. The first child went into inherited the land. The second child went either into the military or the priesthood. And the third child, as they say in French, Unistelfen. It didn't help you. So trying to find yourself and find a new place where you weren't judged for being number 3. Now Mavis was number 2. You don't be number 3. They came to America. So understand that there is this concept throughout history of actually in Jewish law, firstborn inherits double everybody else. So I'm proud to say I'm a firstborn. Hasn't helped me, but it was nice to be. Anyway, so that's the point. Korach makes a point. He's actually right. He's actually should be in charge. So what happens? Moses supposedly praying to God. He was a wonderful leader. He thought about it a lot. He felt bad. And he says to God, I didn't even take a donkey from this guy, which sounds so ridiculous with me. But what he was really saying in Middle Eastern, axiom, was I had no dealings with him. So Moses felt bad he hadn't acknowledged the birthright of his older cousin. Because had he done that, he probably would have diffused all the violence on the anger. So anyway, what happens is, we look at it from this perspective. Moses was a great leader. Korach was right. So how do you reconcile the both? It's not that Korach was wrong, obviously. It was that he didn't come to Moses alone. He didn't go to his cousin and say, hey, cuz, don't you think I should get something? Don't you think I should have something? I'm your older cousin. Cut me some slack. You know, we often talk about movies, and I want to go back to the actor who played, you know, that always makes me laugh. Sesame of the Mill puts in this multi-million-dollar movie about the pinnacle of Jewish freedom, and the only Jewish actor in the whole cast is the villain. It's like, huh? But anyway, we'll leave that alone for now. And obviously that man is Edward G. Robinson, playing David. So if you pick up on Edward G. Robinson's portrayal of the one they call Dathan, it's really Korach, but to the people in Iowa, Korach is a lot harder to pronounce than Dathan. So fit in. So seriously, I had a professor at Hebrew Union College who said that. Watch what happens in the media when they have to use a Hebrew name that sounds almost anglicized versus a Hebrew name that's Hebrew. And sure, I'll give you a quick example. The second movie about the raid on Entebbe, the leader of the raid on Entebbe on the ground force was Yehonatan Netanyahu, the older brother of the person who wants to be prime minister again, God forbid. But I'm sorry for that. But anyway, in the second movie, the man who becomes the hero of the movie is Don Shamron, who was there. It was his boss. He was the paratroop commander. He wasn't the ground force commander. So once again, it's done because it, Tracy, how will it play in Peoria, right? How will it play in Peoria? And that's exactly the point. It plays better in Peoria, Don Shamron, than Yehonatan Netanyahu, which, let's be honest, most people in Peoria can't pronounce. Oh, never mind. That's not nice to say when it goes out on the internet. Anyway, but all kidding aside, you can tell I'm in one of those fun moods. So the point is Korach is angry. Judaism teaches you never, ever, ever embarrass someone in person in public. It's like committing murder. It's actually a whole Talmudic section about that. So that's what Korach's big mistake was. If he had said to Moses, "Hey, Moses, I'm your older cousin. Can you give me something?" And I asked Josh, we were discussing the Torah portion. My son has become a Baal Tshuva, which means he's embraced Orthodoxy. I said, I can't remember. Was Korach one of the spies? And he said, no. And if you read the stuff from last week, the spies that I already talked about, the spies were the leaders of the 12 tribes. How come you don't send your older cousin? You know, obviously, if he looks like Edward Giraffe, he may not make it through the trip, but that's another story. But that's what I'm getting at. Korach had a grievance. You treat me like I'm nothing. I'm your cousin. I'm close to you. So that's why. But once again, it goes back to Moses' leadership. Ultimately, you know what happens. Korach is killed with a lot of his followers. God stepped in and said, this is our leader, and knock it off. And it's not the first time. 2 weeks ago, Miriam, because she cursed her brother Moses, got leprosy. Last week, the spies mentioned, and God cursed them. He said, all right, guys, because you didn't think I could handle it and help you, you have 39 more years in the desert. That's actually written. So this is the point. God steps in, but it doesn't alter the fact about Moses' leadership. He felt bad and saw his mistakes and did not curse Korach for embarrassing him. He took it as part of leadership. And that's something we need to think about today. Is how do you approach somebody? You have a legitimate grievance. You don't embarrass them in front of them. You don't bring a gang with you to gang up on them. Frankly, I'll be honest, I've been at that end. It's not a lot of fun to be ganged up on. And so this is something that Judaism teaches, that you negotiate one-on-one. In fact, the Hebrew word for negotiation is masa or matan. You give, and you take. You take, and you give. And it's very important. So that's my thought for it. Now, I promised you I would do a 3-part drash. So that was part 1 about the Torah portion and my bar mitzvah and stuff like that. So now, the second part of it is my trip. I'm trying not to short out the microphone because I'm going to start crying. It was wonderful. It was absolutely phenomenal. Not just for seeing the grandkids after 2.5 years. They're no longer little babies. I have a picture of them going to the airport on the way home in 2020 before everything shut down. And those are little kids. These are not little kids anymore. These are the young kids. But Racheli is 9, Sarah is going to be 8 in October, and Moshe is 5. These are regular young people. And they're funny, and they're demanding, and they're this, and they're that. But I will give you an example, not from the trip, but from today. I said to Racheli, what is our theme song? So I teased her about it. A few months ago when we were viewfind, she likes to, I don't know how to put it, like an Eddie Cantor, with her eyes, she move her eyes and play, right? So I said, what's our theme song? Guess what she started singing? Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get the peepers? Because that's what I taught her to sing. And it made me feel so good. And the same thing, they could pop, we missed you, she sent us letters. You know what, Sarah's a little bit more hold back. But when she likes something, you just see a big smile. We went on rides, we went to the zoo, we did this with them. I can't say enough. And that I got to be reacquainted with Joshua and see what life he's built in Cleveland, as well as Ezra, and it was worth it. And of course, on a serious note, we didn't go, the 2 of us. We brought my mother-in-law with us. She's in her 80s. And you have to come to grips with how many more times is she going to be able to see them. And that's the way life is these days. So it was a wonderful trip. It had its moments. You know me well enough. If I don't see something I don't like, I feel honest enough to voice it. But they are very smart. And let me use this as a transition to temple. Yes, they speak Ashkenaz. Sometimes I have trouble understanding them when they're speaking Hebrew about the stuff I know. because they speak Ashkenaz and I speak Sephardic. So you're wondering what the difference is. When Israel was becoming a country, it had a big fight. It had a fight between those who spoke Yiddish, the leadership, and those who didn't speak Yiddish, and they wanted to make the national language. And they said to the Yiddish people, Yiddish is a dialect of German. Hebrew is our language. They said, okay, wise guy, what Hebrew are we going to use? So they figured the people who spoke the purest Hebrew were the people from Yemen. Why? Because in Yemen, you have two choices if you're a Jew. You speak Hebrew, or you speak Hebrew's almost youngest sibling, Arabic. So you take your Hebrew from your Arabic. Also, there was a professor, Eliezer Perlman was his name before he changed it, Eliezer Ben Yehuda, who wrote a 5-volume dictionary on modern Hebrew based upon Arabic and other words. So the only problem they didn't realize is when Yemenites speak, they have their own accent. So it's hard to understand them too. But that's what we speak. We speak Sephardic Hebrew. Now, third part of my drive tonight. When I came here 36 years ago, Rabbi Kramer had the children learning Ashkenaz, which is the way I grew up. I grew up in a Reform synagogue, Rumsey Road, Yonkers, New York, learning Ashkenaz. It got destroyed when I went to college, and I had Hebrew teachers, and of course living in Israel. So I remember, and some of you know it, Nehemiah Golden, and when Philip was my first year here, Philip was bar mitzvah. So Philip gets up in front of the ark, and in those days, Rabbi had us teach them the mourner's kaddish. We've since changed it to Chetzi because it's just, I think, better for the service. And Philip starts reciting mourner's kaddish, leading the congregation, and Neil looks at me and he says, "That's not the way I learned it." I said, "Yeah, this is the transition for the future. You learned Ashkenaz, Sephardi is our future." So that's it. Anyway, so that's one of the things that happened to me here. Other than that, I don't want to, frankly, I'm an egotist. I don't want to give away my column for the month. But I can tell you a couple little things about Rabbi. When I first came, I didn't have a black robe. I came from a conservative movement where the rabbis wore suits, and nobody wore a robe anymore. The rabbi wore a robe. Well, those of you who have met Rabbi Kramer, he stands this big. He's like at least a head taller than I am. So I had no robe. What am I going to do? I'm not going to break with the robe tradition. So I went to class, I took his robe. Problem with his robe is it comes down to here. So I walk out and I have these two sleeves, and I'm looking at these two sleeves, and I said, And I took my sleeve and I went just like this and just like that. And who was I imitating? Come on, you Disney fans, who am I imitating?
Oh, Mickey Mouse?
Yeah, Mickey Mouse, the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Sorcerer's.
And there I was, I'm the Sorcerer's Apprentice. And I've been, until he retired, I was the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Not only that, another rabbi thing, that's not my column. It's Purim. Rabbi is with Jim Madison, they're getting dressed to go to a Purim party. And Rabbi has on this magnificent tall hat. If you're being kind, it's a wizard's hat. If you're being unkind, it's a Jew's cap. Just however you want to. It's got all the stars and the moon and the sun on it. And Rabbi has one of his black robes on. He said, "Who are you going as?" I said, "I'm going as Merlin the magician." I said, "Oh, that's nice. You look better than Santa Claus." Anyway, and that's another story about Rabbi. I'll tell you in a minute. Anyway, I said, "Oh." And they said, "Oh, you don't know about Jewish tradition and Merlin the magician." Well, the Jews lived in England up until they were kicked out in 1299, I think, out of York. So there was a large group of Jews at the time of King Arthur and the Knights of Round Table. Would anybody like to share with us what Merlin the magician says before he did things? Abracadabra. Anybody here know their Aramaic? Abracadabra. As I created, let me say it. And most people, that's a good one for Jeopardy, because nobody knows what that means. Abracadabra. Abracadabra. Remember, Bereshit bara Elohim et Hashemayim v'et haaretz? Bara, same word, creates. Dabara is diber, the very Greek. So that was Merlin the magician. That was Rabbi. I learned about abracadabra. In fact, I did that with my grandkids. We were doing something, and they said, abracadabra. Well, how's your Hebrew? What do you mean? Abracadabra. What else to tell you about the early years being Rabbi's assistant? The first time I led service, the first time, and it's in the column. I guess it was the second time I led services. Yeah, because Rabbi came and It's in the calendar. I went to the first night I led services, Rabbi wasn't here. He came back because his father passed away. So I got confused in the column, forgive me. I go to the entire service. Hank Blum says to me, I'm almost done. Rabbi, I said, yes, or Mark, yes. Don't you think you should do the candle blessing now? Uh-oh. I was so nervous on my day. I was so nervous. I forgot the candle blessing. Here I am. I'm doing everything. Go. So I learned my lesson and to make sure that's why Robin do it. So I make sure it gets done. It's hard to believe it's 36 years. I'm 72 as of last Wednesday, and thank you again. It's hard to believe half my life I've been here. It is hard to believe. And yeah, thank you.
We need to sing to Rabbi Baruch.
The feeling is mutual. I'm happy to be home. Happy to be with all of you. Throughout the week, people have called when they needed. You heard me mention Yvonne's name. She's not as well as we'd like her to be, and as an old friend. So you're all my friends. And I want to leave what I said in the column as a nation. But it has been an interesting 36 years. And two sons were teachers here, and I don't know if I rattle on, and I don't want to. I want to stop now. But there is one thing else. It has been remarkable. I hope, with the board's approval, another 36 years, or at least how many. That would make me 109. I think by that time, I think I'll retire. But thank you all very, very much. Let us continue to grow again. We are coming back. Telling people in Cleveland about what we do and how we do it. They're a little bit at the other end of Judaism and Orthodoxy, but they enjoy what we do. And telling them about some of the things we've been able to do. Once again, thank you all very much. To the board. I look forward to next Friday night at the installation. And I don't think there's too much else that I can say. Other than I learned a lot and helped me grow. So I'll leave it at that. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And thank you very much. And there is one thing I'm gonna say, because I promised the third part about American history. I found a book in Goodwill. I don't know if they, but Rabbi, that's not a big deal. Why are you making that's not a big deal? You're always finding it. I found a book called America's Prophet. I said, oh my God, who is it? Is it Martin Luther King? Is it? No, it's Moses. I'm having the time of my life. It goes all the way back to the Pilgrims and the phrases that they used, quoting Moses. You've all been there. You know something, but when somebody puts it in writing, you go, oh yeah, there it is. And that's it. I'm up to Washington. That's all. But it's fascinating, all the facts that are given and all this stuff, and how our Torah, what they call the Old Testament. By the way, as a Jew, I don't use the word Old Testament because it means the New Testament is like Banami, old versus new and improved. And I mean, that's what it actually says. It's the new testimony, the new witnessing. So if you can use Hebrew scriptures and Christian scriptures. If anybody questions you, tell them you're only following Pope John Paul II. Because he said the same thing. He wouldn't do all the stuff you did. But anyway, it's just all how America is based upon the freedom of our people from Egypt and how Moses as a leader. So I can't wait to finish the book because it has just been so much fun to read. Would you all please rise? Please turn to page 586. And join us for Arlene. Begor Aleinu, Bekor HaOlam, V'Na'au Yikori, U'Mishtatavi U'Modi, U'Ifnei Melech, Alfei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Continue Aleinu on page 588. Shehuna Teshamayim V'Yosef Haaretz U'Moshe Yikaro V'Shamayim Yimahal U'Shkinat Uzo V'Kanei Be'Elohim U'Elohim Einu Emet Malkeinu Efezuleto Hakatu B'Torato Yadata Hayom V'Hashebotam Elevadecha Elohim V'Shamayim Yima'al V'Al Ha'aretz V'Tachta. We complete Aleinu on page 591. V'haya Adonai V'melech al kol ha'aretz V'yom hahu Yeh Adonai Echad U'Shemo Echad. It is my honor to call to mind those whom we remember in yahrzeit memory: Charles Kaiser, Samuel Stillman, and those who have been translated to eternity in recent days and weeks and months. Sonia Luna, Lourdes, the wife of Carlos, Esther Beirano, Beverly Bayer, Judy Williams, Bob Cohen. Samuel Silverberg, Carolyn Davis, Charles Kravitz, Simona Elkin, Irene Dabrowski, Risa Nyman Beach, Pat Winter, Jay Black, Irving Yablon, Edith Frankie, Hannah England, Gunnar Martin Madsen, Dave Borg, Gunnar Aaron Suave, Andre Meyer, Esther Bat Yaakov Bedina, Stephen Sondheim, Mindy Bat Schiffer, Fran Bourne Johnson, George Ashkarikian, Parker Sands, Orvin Chancer, Mark Hutter, Glenn Miller, Rabbi Jerry Fisher, David Weinstein, Sensei Robert Christoph, Alexandra Bat Benzion, Isaac Kolach, Dick Elliott, Robert Dolan, Richard Emerson, Yaran Faleh, Shirel Abu Karat, Amir Kuri, Steve Parker, Debbie Newell, Jesse, the mother of Walter, Robert Cantor, Rivka Bat Herschel, Melvin John Davuk, Arlen Meyerson, Alex Mehrabi, Moshe Ben Meir, Deborah Bat Clooney, Deborah Bat Yaakov, Eva Morales, Irma Garcia, Uzia Garcia, Xavier Lopez, Leshana Cruz Torres, Jose Flores, Jaila Cigaro, Leila Salazar, Jesus Renos, Amila Joe Garza, Alethea Ramirez, Tess Marie Mata, Alexandria Lexi Rubio, McKenna Lee Elrod, Javier Bravo, Alejandra Edie Garcia, Rogelio Torres, Maite Rodriguez, Jacqueline Becky Cesaris. If you're here on the anniversary of the death of a loved one, and during a period of intense mourning, all I can ask you to do is come to here as we recite the Kaddish. Go.
We just lost two people, Hannah Klein and.
Because I was out of town, they wouldn't add to the list. Right, Hannah Klein.
And Helen,
I just know about Hannah, I don't know about the other.
she died a couple of weeks ago.
All right.
Okay, we'll ask her.
Yeah, I'm apologize about Hannah. I didn't, my list wasn't updated.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
For what?
I can't remember.
The operative principle in mourning is to remember. Hold on. It's like God created cell phones.
Helen. She's a sisterhood. Helen.
Hold on. Oh, you're right, thank you. Tova Bat Arelev. That's the one I have.
I'm sorry. No.
No.
We dropped the ball.
No.
I can't remember.
Okay. We shouldn't stop the prayer, but after we do this, we'll talk for a minute, all of us. Okay? All right. So once again, if you hear an intense period of mourning, the anniversary does want to come forward. The Kaddish prayer is found on page 598. Let us pray. Oh, pardon me. Since high holidays, the congregation has made a decision that all of us recite the Kaddish, because that way we are making sure that no one is without someone to say Kaddish for them on any given day. Because we've lost so many people, there are not enough people to say it. So if we do it, then we're doing our job. Once again, at least court to remember. Okay, so please, 598, let us all pray the Kaddish together. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabah. V'yamad v'yibrach yirutei v'yamlik malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon. Chayei v'kol beit Yisrael. V'agolah v'yizman kariv yimru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabah v'varach v'olam v'amei amen. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipoar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shnei v'kudusha v'yikut. Leila Nikol Berchata V'Shirata Tush Bechata V'Nechamata Damiran V'Yama Yimru Amen. Yehei Shlomo Rabba Min Shomaya V'Chaim Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael Yimru Amen. Osei Shalom B'Mamav Hu Yasei Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael Yimru Amen. You may be seated. Let me. The reason something was said to me before services about clergy saying it's enough that I'm here, and I was appalled by what was said because it's not true. Our job as clergy is to service the community. And if we make a mistake, or we don't work, the sin of omission, I guess is the best way to put it, they call us on it. At least that's my perspective on it. Yeah, I didn't update, I was late, and I didn't update my list. No, but you said you were sorry. How could you be sorry?
Because I meant to tell Ralph that I thought.
It's okay, Ralph got sick. And then, Ralph was in the accident, so he probably would have done it yesterday. So it's not. The point is, there's a section in the Talmud on page, it's the section called Shabbat, the Masechet Shabbat, page 22b, if I remember my pages well. It's a whole thing about lighting the candles. Remember, how can we light the first night one candle, the second night two, and the other group Shammai says, no, the first night of holiday is always the biggest, which is true. And each night we light one less. And what does Hillel say? Hillel says, you never decrease holiness, you only increase holiness. So, one of our major tenets of Judaism is to remember our people. So you enabled me to add to the holiness of the Kaddish by reminding me. If I get upset or I say no, or there are rabbis who don't. Oh my God, pardon me, God. Come on, you don't ever interrupt a rabbi when he's speaking, or else lightning is going to come down from Mount Sinai. All those poor Bedouins in the Sinai plains are going to get zapped up to. Wait, I've known people like that. I know rabbis like that. God talks to them and they talk to us peonies. No. Well, okay, let's go back. We're doing rabbi stuff, and I'm thinking. Anybody know who designed this building?
Rabbi.
Yep. You know what makes this building unique? I've told you,
No,
but no
no,
fair.
no.
Tracy
Okay, I'm
knows.
sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
There's no stairs.
There's no stairs. There's no. How many synagogues do you know where there's no bima for the rabbi to be up here and all the rest of the people down there? We used to go to St. Jude's. It was like, no, I don't like this. I want to be back with my people. No, seriously. And that's the whole point.
I
Rabbi
fell
made-
off of that beam.
I'm sorry?
I fell off of that beam. It seemed to.
Well, wait, remember Helen Peppermint yesterday, she broke her
Oh,
leg.
yeah, really.
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to, well, high holidays. But that's the point here. This is the place where it is. I reminds me, because you're right, sometimes I forget. Because even you go at the door when you come in. That's the point. That is exactly the point. So thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Before I leave tonight, you make sure I'm gonna add those, at least those two ladies. There are a couple of other names that I do personally. But, and if you can be of help, you'll tell me during the week, I'll put it on my phone. I have to start saying 11 months of Kaddish anyway, because I promised the congregation I always would. And I'll listen.
Thank
No,
you.
it's not a thank you. It's I'm supposed to do that. All right. I know we're getting late. One last thing. I say truly, at the funeral, there are always people who come to help the mourners. So you've heard me say it. If I don't say thank you to these people for going out of their way to help, then I'm not doing my job. Same thing here. If I don't say thank you for considering every little person in our family, no, that's not fair. Anyway, but the point is that I'm not doing my job if I don't strive to recognize everybody in our congregation. And we do that. There's a loss, you know. So that's all. I mean, basically, and once again, by the way, I did have an opportunity to write a thing for the Federation about how I felt about the Supreme Court. And if you're interested, I'll send you the link. It's how I feel. And you know how I feel. And so it's my pleasure. But I want to say, so Temple Beth Emet of Burbank, the last I looked, we're like number 4 in all the list of all these rabbis. So I was really proud of that they gave us 4th position. God said to Moses, go forth, and Moses ran 5th, and God lost his shirt. For my favorite ridiculous jokes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Since COVID, we decided to do Kiddush here, which actually is what Rabbi used to do. I have a picture of Ezra, who's now in his 40s. As this little boy just barely looking over the table he used to come over to Friday night services, my oldest son, and he would lead Kiddush. And so we're gone full circle. We're back doing it. The day will be upon us when we won't have to anymore, because there is challah and grape juice waiting for you at the end of the services. And it is very good to be home.
Well, as we said, did you root for the Dodgers or?
Oh, you want to put the Guardians?
Yes.
No, I root for the Dodgers. I'm not doing the Guardians. I didn't even root for them when they were the Indians. And then they converted. Yeah, please.
Yeah,
We'll tell jokes and we'll never get out of here.
Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim, Ivanu V'charta, Ezmanu Kidasha, Yechol Hamim, V'Shabbat Karshecha, Ve'ahava U'Ratzon, Yinchatanu, Baruch Atah Adonai, V'Kadesh HaShabbat, Amen.
This is what we say. This is Northwest Hollywood. In the words of Jackie Gleason, how sweet it tastes.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices join in happy chorus as our prayer is humbly said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
I think before we close with Oseh Shalom, our prayer for peace, that we honor Monday. We honor the 4th of July and what the country has meant to us as a people. You cannot imagine, maybe you can. You know, we say that coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. Think about it for a minute. The woman who writes the poem at the base of the Statue of Liberty is Jewish. What is the percentage of that if you were a Las Vegas odds maker? Almost impossible. Things of that nature. The first victim of the American Revolution is a Jewish man, and so on and so forth. I'd rather stay on positive things. Going back to vaccination for just 10 seconds. 2 Jewish doctors, one named Salk and one named Sabin, absolutely eliminated the scourge of the 20th century, other than the bird flu. But that's the point. Our country, we have paid the price. Many have paid the price, the ultimate sacrifice. But many of our people have done so well where they were not allowed to. Many countries, we forget sometimes that many countries, we could have lived there for 1,000 years, we were still not full citizens. They still never consider us a part of the country. In America, it said, we want to do this, we want to join a society, let's be honest, we want to be a capitalist. Here, I guess we really don't care what you do. Some do, but by and large, the rest of the country said, no, we don't. Just pay your dues, shine your shoes, and you're a part of our country. So with that note, and that wonderful introduction, I leave it up to you. What would you like to say?
You shouldn't read that to me.
Why?
Because there's too many to choose from. What's one of your favorites?
Oh, I have lots.
God Bless
Oh,
America?
yeah, but that's always my favorite. You know that? Yeah,
Is
sure.
that okay with
This
everybody?
is a show. What better place for God Bless America?
All right. And God bless America. And that I love. Stand beside her and guide her. With the night, with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with gold. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
We close our service with Oseh Shalom because we believe we need God's help to bring peace, especially right now in our country. The lines are being drawn, the fight is coming, and we will need to have peace. So let us use it normally with our world peace, but tonight I'll be satisfied with our country of peace come July 4th. Please join us for Oseh Shalom.
Oh, shalom, shalom, shalom. Oh, yaseh, shalom. Oh, shalom, shalom, shalom. Oh, yaseh, shalom. Oh, yaseh, shalom. Shalom Aleinu. We are called Israel. Yimeru Amen. We are called Israel. Yimeru Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And happy holidays. May this be the beginning of many